Hello friends, welcome back to my channel Inspect, Reflect and Reform. Today, let's try to understand the future expected Indian economy. If you love to learn new things, stay tuned with me till the end of this video. A city which is called Noida on the outskirts of Delhi, the foundations for India's economic future are being laid. Here, sprawling electronics factories have emerged, including a massive 1 million square foot Dixon Technologies plant, employing about 26,000 workers, and a Samsung facility producing a staggering 120 million phones annually. About 1,900 kilometers south, Bangalore has become one of the fastest growing cities globally, serving as a hub for high-tech and heavy manufacturing industries. These evolving manufacturing centers have transformed India into a key player in global manufacturing, contributing significantly to economic growth worldwide, as PM Modi's mentioned.
India was the 10th largest economy in the world. 10th. Today, India is the 5th largest economy. And, and India will be the 3rd largest economy soon.
Already, there are clear signs that this vision is becoming a reality. Foreign investments are pouring in, the stock market is booming, and the manufacturers are scaling up production. Companies like Boeing Inc. are securing record-breaking aircraft orders. Apple Inc. is ramping up iPhone production, and suppliers that were once primarily based around southern China are now moving to India. So, what makes India such an attractive destination for global businesses? A primary reason is that India's offer a viable alternative to China. While India's economy is accelerating, China's growth has slowed in recent years. In light of strained global trade relations with China, India is seizing the opportunity to surpass its neighbors as the world top contributor to economic growth. However, despite the optimism, India's economy, valued at 3.8 trillion, is still far smaller than China's massive $18.3 trillion economy. Some experts argue that it could take decades, if not longer, for India to catch up. Furthermore, India faces challenges such as poor infrastructure, a struggling education system, excessive red tape, and a shortage of skilled workers. While India is home to 167 billionaires, over 129 million people still live below the poverty line. These disparities are evident in the education sector, where more than half of the fifth grade students struggled with reading at the second grade level. India and China together account for 40% of global growth, with China contributing 23% and India 17%. However, according to Bloomberg's economics analysis, India is expected to become the world's largest contributor to GDP growth by 2028. This forecast is based on the projection that India's rapidly expanding economy will surpass China's long-standing role as the leading engine of global economic expansion. For decades, China was the undisputed driver of global GDP growth. This dynamic made China an attractive destination for foreign capitals and bolstered its global influence. Every major global economy needed a strategy for China. However, China's miracles faced of growth has ended as challenges such as property crisis and rising concerns over its dominance of global supply chains and advanced technologies weighed on its economy. India, with a population of 1.4 billion, has the advantage of strong economic growth during a time when many developed countries, including China, are grappling with an aging and shrinking population. This presents a rare opportunity for India, which aims to position itself as the next global economic powerhouse. India is also determined to make its economy more competitive, a shift that appeals to Western companies seeking to diversify away from China and tap into India's vast pools of affordable labor. At the end of the World War II, both China and India were impoverished nations with large populations. By the 1980s, their living standards were similar, while China implemented sweeping economic reform in the 1980s and saw a spectacular growth. India followed suit decades later. India's GDP growth accelerated, but it never reached the pace of China's rise. Today's India's per capita income is $2,700 compared to China's $12,970. India's economic advantages are evident. The country is undergoing a significant transformation. Driven by increased domestic demand, India's consumers' behavior has changed dramatically over the past decades. With a population of 1.4 billion and a large number of unmet needs, India's growth is primarily driven by domestic consumption and investment. The shift in spending habits from avoiding purchases altogether to prioritizing essential ones signals the country's progress in both economic conditions and consumer awareness. In 2023, India's consumer spending reached $2,142 billion, a 6.45 increase from the previous years. To put this into perspective, consumer spending was just $1,031 billion in 2012, meaning it has nearly doubled in a decade. On the supply side, India's working age population is expected to reach 1.04 billion by 2030, with a dependency ratio of just 31.2%, the lowest in its history. This demographic trend will contribute nearly a quarter of the world's incremental workforce. This phenomenon, often referred to as the Asian miracle, has already been harnessed by countries like Japan, South Korea, and China. Additionally, India boasts the largest pools of English-speaking STEM graduates globally, further enhancing its appeal. India's financial markets are in better shape than ever before, with opportunities in China's calling investors are looking to India as a viable alternative. The MSCI India's index has risen 18% this year, compared to just 2% for the MSCI Emerging Markets Index. Furthermore, India's banks are in a strong position and credit markets are functioning well. Nonetheless, significant challenges remain. India needs to modernize its infrastructure, expand its workforce, and build out urban centers. The country faces issues like poor roads quality, underdeveloped railroads, and insufficient airports and ports, critical component needed to attract foreign manufacturers. However, India is investing heavily in its infrastructure. The government is adding 10,000 kilometers of highways annually. The numbers of airports has doubled since 2014, and a new high-efficiency freight corridors are being developed. India's digital manufacture is another success story with 881 million internet users. India has the world's second largest internet-enabled population, trailing only China. The country's digital public infrastructures, a combination of a unique identity system, seamless digital payment, and an efficient data management system, has revolutionized public services and made credit more accessible. Despite these advances, India faces the challenges of increasing labor force participation. The country has one of the lowest participation rates in the world, with just over half of the working age population employed or seeking employment. Women's participation rates are even lower. This is a major issue because a larger workforce is essential for sustained economic growth. Additionally, India's labor force remains undereducated, and many peoples are unable to secure jobs in high-tech industries or the service sector due to low skill levels. A critical goal for India's growth is to expand its middle class, a feat that China achieved through its manufacturing sector. Manufacturing is one of the few industries capable of generating large numbers of jobs for semi-educated workers. And India's success in this area will be crucial for economic growth. To achieve this, India needs to build out its cities. Currently, just 36% of India's population live in cities compared to over 64% of China's population. This urbanization process requires significant investment in infrastructure, including metro lines, inner city highways, and housing development. While India's $3.8 trillion economy is still only about one-fifth the size of China, it doesn't need China to slow down for India to advance. Economic growth is not a zero-sum game, and China and India have a strong economic ties. While some manufacturers are shifting their operation to Southeast Asia, India has secured a portion of this investment despite being described as a challenging place to do business due to complex tax system and slow government processes. Unlike China's shift to economic reform, India's growth is slower and more complicated, but it still offers immense potential for the future. The United States can play a pivotal role in India's growth as a democratic partner. India presents available opportunities for American companies looking to invest in emerging markets. Additionally, India's growth can serve as counterbalances to China, which is increasingly seen as a rival to the US. However, rapid economic growth also brings environmental challenges like China. India's rapid industrialization is contributing to severe air pollution, particularly in the cities like New Delhi, which rank among the most polluted cities globally. In conclusion, India has the potential to surpass China as the world's leading engine of economic growth in the coming decades. With the right investment in infrastructures, education, and workforce participation, India could solidify its position as a key player on the global economic stage, attracting foreign investment, creating jobs, and driving global economic growth for years to come. Thank you. See you in the next video.